AI is still hot, but is the future just one big bot?
Nice rhyme, dude. I don't know about that, but there's a lot of stuff going on, so I'm excited to chat today.
Yeah, that's exciting, yet also concerning, but not as big as some of my concerns that I have to bring up later during the news segment of this. So
It should be a good one.
I'm looking forward to That's Concerning. So without any further ado, this is the FinTech Flo.
I'm Mike Whitmire, co-founder, CEO of FloQast, inactive CPA.
I am Drew Carrick, the Rapping CPA, producer here at FloQast Studios, and you're listening to the FinTech Flo, which this is episode number 8. So we've been moving and grooving here. We're
Okay.
all the stuff from finance, technology, accounting.
8 hours of CPE credit available for our audience. That feels good.
Yeah, that's a nice number. We're gonna keep it on going. So getting right into the accounting stuff, this is from PwC, and this is, well, not from PwC, but from Accounting Today. PwC bets big on AI, climate, and audit tech. And you want to take a read of on the chart?
Yeah, so PwC is investing $1 billion in AI technology like ChatGPT while also pouring money into geospatial technology to track rising sea levels and other signs of climate change, as well as predictive analytics, auditing technology, virtual reality, and more. Which two don't sound like the others in that sentence? I'm fascinated about this rising sea level change.
What I'm really curious about, and like I don't know if you picked up on this, but I feel like all of these big accounting firms are like the news that's associated with like the stuff they're doing and the areas they're getting into feels like it has nothing to do with accounting or whatsoever. It's just they've just moved to general advisory.
Well, that's what I'm looking at this, right? The sea level thing is very weird, tracking that. You're not a climate change company. The virtual reality part, unless that relates to like the metaverse for working together,
right.
and that's I mean, I guess that could be there, but hey, pouring it into ChatGPT for using like within audit world, I think there are some applications there, and then using it for auditing analytics, that makes like a ton of sense to me, and I think could take care of a lot of the kind of rote work that makes audit not as fun as it could possibly be. So I don't know. This is like half exciting, half weird to me when I read this one.
I just what exactly is PwC's role in geospatial technology, or like in the rising sea levels? And I guess like, you have ESG scores and it's like, the triple bottom line, how sustainable is the company? I don't know. I'm not familiar with any, like, I guess, are those regulations now being incorporated into audits where you're actually auditing their social score?
Not that I'm aware of.
But is this the prerequisite, perhaps?
I'm sure there's good reason for it, but I cannot think of it right now. But to keep going with the article, so PwC demonstrated several of the products it's been developing and where it's investing its funds on behalf of clients during a tech showcase Tuesday at its offices in New York. The area generating the most buzz is generative AI using large language models, with PwC deploying between 150 and 200 of its staff last week to start training a chatbot powered by OpenAI's ChatGPT. I think that makes a ton of sense. We at FloQast think there's some applications in there as well. I am surprised, though, I'll say from when you're auditing transactional data, really sensitive financial information should not be shared in many places. I know audit firms are generally very paranoid about that. Do you want to be given that info to ChatGPT and OpenAI at this point? I'm sure they did a lot of work to get there from a security perspective, but I know for us internally, like, security is very top of mind, and I'm not quite ready to hand all our clients' info over to OpenAI, and so I'm curious how they got around this. But putting 150, 200 people on it, that's a good commitment, and they're getting after it.
Yeah, that's a sizable. That's the thing that stuck out to me, is like you're throwing 200 staff on, like, your job is just to train this bot. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm wondering what the job description is, like. What qualifies you to be a chatbot trainer?
Let's see. Well, yeah, that's a great question. I would say having some review responsibility in the past. You're going to be just verifying it and giving it like positive reinforcement around learning how to, I believe, audit transactions. And so you got to know what you're doing. This shouldn't be like a staff 1 type job, but maybe you're the more that staff 2, you've done it once, and maybe senior level, and you can do it.
From a security standpoint, I'm thinking, I guess at perhaps some point you're going to have like a proprietary version of the ChatGPT. You know what I mean? So it is the same fundamental base, but it's like, well, it's ours. We own it to use for this purpose, so we're able to kind of safeguard the security.
That's that's where all the details is where it really gets hammered out. So like everyone's gonna be taking these large language models and then you customize it for your use cases. And then as long as the data is getting saved and something that you control, then I think you can get comfortable with that. But I will say the thing that's most exciting about this is everyone talks about work-life balance. I think this is probably going to come up a little bit later in the session as well. And if PwC can figure this out and all of a sudden offer their staff better work-life balance than other firms, it becomes a competitive advantage for pricing out new clients, recruiting different talent. And so I'm glad to see they're making an investment here. And I hope it just gets the other firms along with it and pressures them to start investing in it. Because this to me is like the clearest way to deal with the work-life balance issue. There's pizza parties only go so far. This is how you can actually make people work less.
Yeah. This is the beauty of capitalism, right? Is that if PwC jumps on it, then the other three jump on it, and then naturally everybody's got to follow what the big four are doing.
Exactly. Love it.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So next up we have, this is from Lexology. I never came across this before until I was looking up, this was just a news piece that came up in the fintech area. The FDIC enters into consent order with fintech-focused bank. Now, it doesn't tell us what bank they're referring to. So I don't know which organization this is. But, basically, part of the thing that it said was, although the consent order does not detail the specific unsafe or unsounding banking practices that the bank allegedly engaged in, the consent order details the remediation requirements that the bank must undertake to comply with the order. Among other things, the consent order requires the bank's board of directors to immediately increase supervision and direct management and the internal controls and systems to ensure that the bank complies with applicable fair lending laws and regulations.
Has the name of the bank come out? I see this article is from May 4th. Do you know if it's very concerning that they're not naming the bank here. This has to be pretty bad. Right.
I didn't see an update on here where it was going to usually be like an edit.
This looks really bad. This isn't like SVB made some poor investment decisions with treasury bonds. This looks like something worse. So
how common is this sort of thing though, where there's a consent order? I mean, like obviously the FDIC is all the rage now with
everybody's aware of the FDIC right now. Yeah, with multiple runs on the bank, but I don't know how frequent this consent order is. This appears to be like, we have a bit of a run on the banks going right now. More regionals are going under. I think that's classic run on the bank. This feels like something different where they've been doing some sketchy stuff and making some poor decisions and don't have internal controls. Like the quote being unsafe or unsound banking practices, end quote. It's very concerning.
I mean, does that just mean you put your deposits into the bonds that are losing value and that's what's unsafe and unsound? I mean, I don't know how you categorize that. It's very eerily generic.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see this one play out a little bit more. Maybe on a future FinTech Flo, we'll see the name of the bank and learn a little bit more about it.
See the response to that.
But yeah, it feels like the beginning of a really, really fascinating story.
I mean, the last line: the FDIC did not delve into the specific practices that caused it to issue the order.
Yeah.
I'm curious to how often the FDIC is ordering banks to like, hey, it's like the parent stepping in and being like, we're going to be watching you now. You broke your curfew a few too many times, and now we're putting a tracker on you.
That's a good comparison,
right?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm so concerned that they're keeping it confidential. Like every other bank, it's know exactly who's getting taken over, FDIC ownership, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And this one, they're not. So what the heck's going on? Like, really future episode as this thing plays out. Curious to.
And this is why the theme of this whole entire episode is concerning. A lot of concerning things. Sometimes we have great weeks where it's just like, wow, like really exciting news. Sometimes it's like, this is a lot of concerning stuff.
I feel like that's going to be the theme of this episode.
So whether it's concerning or not, meet Linda Yaccarino, Elon Musk's new Twitter CEO and the ad world's Velvet Hammer.
Velvet Hammer. I haven't heard that nickname before.
Yeah, this is from a Wall Street Journal, and the billionaire bets that the NBC Universal executive with Madison Avenue ties will bring advertisers back to Twitter.
Interesting. Doesn't seem like the background of the person he would have taken on, given how much he doesn't like kind of the mainstream media. Right. I would guess, but. Hey, he did say that when he found a CEO, he'd step down and give over the reins, and so he's following through on that promise that he made. But He does need ad revenue to keep
Yeah.
that thing running, and so the background with advertising makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing from this article was he was talking about how he's still going to be there for like the innovation and the creative design and some of the UX aspects of it, right? The product stuff. But she's there specifically for how do we actually make this business a business and not just a hobby.
Yeah.
As we all know, a hobby doesn't make money. It's just something you like to do,
And-
which is what Twitter is for a lot of people.
It is, and then this is what Elon does. Like when at any of his companies, he focuses on product. He's not running financial statements or selling advertising deals or anything. It's like he's a product guy, and that's how he has so much time to work across multiple companies. Is because he's effectively the chief product officer for each company. He's not. While his title is CEO, his time goes towards product.
So hot take question, do you consider Elon Musk a businessman?
Yeah, I don't know how you couldn't.
I don't know. I mean, like it's like primary. Like this is clearly a businesswoman. This guy is more of like an inventor of sorts.
Well, I guess okay. So you're making a good distinction here: entrepreneur versus business person, and there's the entrepreneur versus operator. Like when you look at CEOs, I think there's a huge difference between a founder CEO and a professional CEO. You know, one came from an MBA program. They want to optimize the financials, and shareholder return is like top of mind for them at every single minute. Elon is a product guy. Founders, entrepreneurs are product people who are focused on building something bigger. And then naturally, like money kind of falls out of the bottom of that.
Right.
If that makes sense. Like he invents such crazy things, and then they kind of find commercial use later. I mean, he's involved in finding the commercial use of it and how to make money off of it. But just as he scales, focuses less on the CEO type job. Like if you look at how my hours are broken apart over the course of a week, it's probably a lot less time on product than what someone like he does. I mean, I have a ton of confidence in Chris, our co-founder, to run product. He's our chief product officer, and I do spend time on product, but a lot of it is towards other functions of the company that I enjoy, like marketing, sales, business development. I enjoy the finance work, helping investor relations, stuff like that. So I'm spread a little bit more thin, and I know from kind of behind the scenes info that he's very cutthroat about focusing on the product side and development, R&D.
Yeah, that's cool. Another part from this article here is that Miss Yaccarino has pushed NBC Universal to look beyond the 30-second TV ads that still make up the core of the business, embracing interactive shopping and forming partnerships with digital companies like BuzzFeed and Apple. And she has streamlined ad sales across networks like Bravo, NBC Broadcast Channel, and played a role in the launch of the ad-supported Peacock streaming service. So I just think it's interesting because he's bringing somebody who has a forward-thinking, innovative mindset towards partnerships and towards bringing in revenue, especially in this streaming thing, which we're going to touch a little bit more on as well.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole world that's shifting. And at the end of the day, I think this is an investment in a person where it's like, I just want somebody that's not just going to sit there and be like, well, this is the old model and how it always worked, and so we'll just figure out how to make that better. I think whatever Twitter's model was is just, it didn't work. We tried it for a while, never worked. Got to have somebody that's willing to adapt and be agile and do something different.
Exactly, and I think one thing that was interesting, he was on CNBC being interviewed a couple days ago after the Tesla earnings release, and he was actually talking about advertising for Tesla, and they were considering doing that, but he had this philosophy around advertising that was actually very FloQast Studios, kind of similar. He's like, the thing about advertising is the content has to change because people are just used to being advertised to. So content needs to become more entertaining and more educational to the point where content and advertising are almost indistinguishable.
Sure.
And I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's like our vision is to produce content that 5 years ago would have been construed as advertising, but is actually so valuable either from an entertainment or an educational perspective that people want to consume it, and then we'll learn about FloQast through that. So for those watching this podcast, that's kind of the idea. We hope we're providing enough value to where you want to listen to this, and then, oh, by the way, you now know about FloQast as a result of that.
Right, for sure. The lesson here for accounting firm owners is, just thinking differently and just not relying on how to just salvage an old model, but how to innovate into a new one.
Yeah. It's cool. So she has the ties that make sense, the advertising revenue, and then we'll see how well they work together.
Yeah, and I think the partnerships and alliances thing is a huge way of especially in the future, as there's become this lack of trust. Anybody can advertise anything and throw something in your face and make you believe like this thing will do this and this will do that, and you could start to wrap it in really high quality production stuff. But at the end of the day, if you tell me like this is where I put my money, it's a good investment. I know you personally. I see how you live. I'm much more likely to do that thing, and I think that's where I mean, how much of a focus do we put at FloQast on partnerships and alliances?
But a lot.
Right, exactly. So moving on along, so talking about streaming and the shifts and the changing, this is kind of just for fun, but ESPNI's major streaming shift.
So when you hear people talk about why they still have cable, it's generally like, because I want to watch sports. Yeah. So that first line around, is this the beginning of the end for cable TV? Very interesting. Might be pretty spot on. I know I was venting a little bit about this while we were prepping. The only sport is I can't watch Dodger games on ESPN still. They have, unfortunately, Dodgers sold all the rights to their TV games to Sportsnet LA here in LA, which is only available on Spectrum. And so I am literally mandated to purchase Spectrum to watch a Dodger game, which I'm paying for cable, and now I'm gonna have to pay for more stuff on top of it to watch other services. I
mean, this is where everything in general has gotten to the point where with all these streaming things is like eventually it adds back up to like you could ditch cable and you can just stream, but and then if you wanted to get all the same accesses, then you have to buy all of them, which ends up being the same price, if not more, than how much it would have been to just have cable in the first place.
I remember probably like 10 years ago, someone was predicting this starting to happen, and I saw this chart where it was like, the next 15 years is going to look like this. You have cable, and then you're going to pile up a bunch of streaming services, and then someone's going to come along and be like, do you want to buy all the streaming services in one package? Mm-hmm. We can bundle them up for you, and you can purchase it for this price. And it's like, wait, that's cable. Yeah. It's like, so, I mean, if I'm paying for like cable, and then the cable version of all the streaming services in 5 years, that's going to be pretty infuriating.
And then, I mean, could you imagine just a world where there's like subprime streaming services that are getting rebundled and packaged out? It's like, I know you didn't want any of these individual shitty streaming services that don't have good shows, but if we package them all up together, maybe now you'll buy them.
Totally. No, you're going to buy all kinds of stuff. All of a sudden you're paying something for Peacock. And
right.
Like, what the heck?
I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I got Paramount Plus just to watch The Offer, and I'm like, there's really nothing else on here that's that appealing to me for why I want it. And I went to cancel, and then it's like, wait, we'll give you 3 more months for free if you don't cancel. And I was like, geez.
I'm sick of all these things. I think I'm done with buying these. And I am an ESPN Plus member already, so hopefully this comes along. Or maybe with Disney Plus, because I also pay for Disney Plus, so maybe it'll be part of that.
The kids need Disney.
Yeah, Harper needs Disney Plus. That's not going to work.
But I definitely, sports is the only thing I really care about watching. So if I can have that, then I'll be good.
I hear that a lot, so I am curious how this impacts cable providers coming out of it.
So that's what's happening in the news, but have you read it?
All right, one of my favorite sections.
Yes. So this is this was an interesting one here. Do you guys think big firms are ever going to wake up and smell the roses? This is from a deleted user account. So I guess they posted this and then deleted their account.
Came in hot. They got 417 upvotes and 151 comments. That's well done.
Yeah. I mean, so this guy basically goes on. I'll read this one. You can take the next slide. How long can they truly keep up this scheme of talent coming in and leaving within 2 years? Audit quality is getting worse and worse, and the rest of the industry and clients are not happy. Every firm has a shortage of senior talent because everyone leaves within a couple of years, creating a newer issue. This leads to inexperienced seniors getting promoted to manager despite being woefully unprepared. On top of that, it's literally making kids not want to major in accounting, making the shortage of eligible accountants worse and worse. At what point are they going to wake up and realize they're running a race to the bottom? I just can't fathom their complete lack of care for employee retention. Now, this kind of is in alignment with what we're kind of talking about with one, what are firms doing to elevate the profession? So we talked about PwC. Perhaps are they able to integrate AI in order to make a better work-life balance, inspire more people to go into it, make the job more enjoyable? The other part of this is just people who are leaders at companies having that innovative mind of like, all right, what's not working? How long can you ride out that old methodology before you're agile and you switch to a more productive and efficient and effective strategy?
Sometimes I see these posts and it's from somebody in probably their early 20s, and they think this is, or maybe they're a staff or a senior going through this, and it's like, hey, newsflash, this has been going on for 40 years. This is not new. Like, in some regards, you could say that the minimum requirement to become a CPA is like, it's what drives this behavior within the audit firm. They know they got you, and you have to be there for a couple of years, and then there's done a good job of branding around the prestige of being at a big firm and all that kind of stuff, which those things are true. But yeah, this is not new. This has been going on for a long time. You could have posted this 30 years ago, said, when are they going to wake up and smell the roses? And here we are 30 years later, and it's still going on. I think they're close. So the investment by PwC is a great example of that. And I think the point they make on here around less people entering the profession is the new wake-up call for them.
Yeah.
I think they're at a point where recruiting out of universities is becoming harder, and what the heck are you going to do? And I think actually the biggest example of that is that some of these audit firms are starting to turn away business because they don't have enough people.
Wow.
Whereas you never would have heard of that 10 years ago. No partner's going to turn away any business, but now they're like, hey, we need a better profitability on that because I need people to staff it, and no, we're not going to take on that job. Refer them to maybe a mid-tier firm or something like that. So that's actually starting to happen, which to me, that's the crack that's going to get this going. And AI does feel like a really great way to supplement that challenge.
Yeah, I think the lack of the new inflow. It was fine to have this operate for 30 years because it was just understood like that's what you do. I mean, you don't expect someone to play baseball for 50 years, right?
Yeah.
This is your window, and if you're smart, you take all the money you're making, you save it the best that you can, and you set yourself up for the rest of your life, which is why you can retire at 35.
That sounds nice.
Yeah, it definitely sounds nice. But when it comes to this, it's like it was just accepted. You knew that there's some people who wanted to be partner. Everybody can't be partner. All the firm of 1,000 people with a new class of 100 people coming in every year, all 100 of them can't be partner.
Yeah, there's one is gonna get there.
So if you accept the fact that there are going to be people that at various stages across the way, and public accounting firms have done a great job of showcasing that ladder. It's like, look, if you stay until you make senior, now when you go and hop over, you'll get this sort of lateral up jump. And if you stay until manager, you'll get even steeper lateral up jump.
Yeah.
And if you make your way up to senior manager or I mean, they did say senior director level, then you can come over and go be the CFO perhaps at a company.
But yeah, they do a really good job of standardizing that, and then to your point, charting out how much you can make. Right. It is really well done.
But to your point, now it works as long as people are going through, they're getting the experience that they're looking for, because everybody has a different goal in mind. Like some people go in knowing that they just want to get 2 years, get the experience under their belt, and go somewhere else. Some people know, no, I'm going to make it to manager. That's my goal. And some people are like, I'm going to try to stick it out, and I want to try to make partner one day. And everybody's got their own awesome career out. But if you don't have people coming in to fill that void, then that's where the issue starts to become a little hectic.
And then I will also add that Reddit and just the internet at large has increased visibility to this for college students. When I was majoring in accounting and made that decision, I wasn't even aware that, I'm about to go grind for a bunch of for a few years in audit, and it's going to be really difficult. And you're just not. I'm not going to go interview for an internship and be like, hey, how many hours am I going to work? Because it's going to be hard. You're not going to do that. But now you can hop on Reddit and see people complaining about it all the time. So it probably is finally actually impacting people's decision on majoring in accounting or not. And so
So you know what? User deleted. You're perpetuating the problem by posting this. You're the reason why people aren't going into accounting, because you just posted that. Somebody saw that and is like, oh boy, I'm not joining this.
It's a funny, vicious cycle, because this person's going to be a manager and be like, why is no one? Why is there no one here to help?
Did it to yourself. Interesting thing too, I had a note as we go to this next slide was, and this again happens to, you talked about what can you do to improve popcorn machines and Bagel Fridays and all this. It's great for the culture and whatnot. I remember working in public and being like, I'd rather you just put the money towards making our audit module just a better system. People had so many frustrations with the platform and the technology we were using, where it was crashing or the file checking in and out process, and it just make it easier to do the job, and that will make me happier.
Working at an audit firm will make you realize how difficult it is to build software, and make you appreciate all the software companies you work with who have built good software. It's really
You want to take a stab at one?
Yeah, I'll do this one. All right. So I work in internal finance for Big Four. We had a workshop to go over how our partner capital is structured, and holy effing, all right, I'll say shit. Do partners have it made, man? They get to borrow the money to buy their units at prime, 1%, then get interest on their capital at prime plus 2%. So they're not only making loans on the amount of units they have, but they're also generating interest on the money they borrow to pay for the units. And then they get all kinds of incentives to buy extra units, including more guaranteed returns. We have an entire team of people whose only job is to assist the partners in financial planning. Damn, that must be nice.
Yeah.
LMFAO.
And this, and then the flip side though, because this ended up actually coming from the same person, Sprite's Gut, who apparently helps out this stuff. But then they, interestingly, had the self-awareness to also be like, but the flip side is here. They didn't give an exact number, but I think it was around an average that they start at 380,000 per year of units, not my team or department, so don't take this for 100%. Also note, though, since they are now owners, they pay the full amount of employment taxes, they pay the full insurance premiums, they don't get matches on retirement. And obviously they're still coming out ahead. You worked your way up to the top, but and this I think goes beyond just even partners at accounting firms. This is everybody has this entrepreneur's journey of just like, oh, well, I just want to be my own business owner, and nobody thinks about there's a lot of nice benefits that come with being an employee. Like every time you have that, I've had the ambitions to be like, I should just go do my own thing. I was like, you'd have to make so much more to get back to where you are, and you're also stressed as hell.
It is very stressful. Yeah, that's yeah.
I mean, you've aged, you know.
Yes, I have aged. I was recently told I need to update my LinkedIn because I look I look older now, which was cool. But yeah, you forget about the stuff: employment taxes, insurance, and then just all the liability that comes with being the business owner as well. Yeah, there are a lot of nice things to being an employee, but there are also a lot of things that people don't enjoy. But yeah, partners have it really. Partners do have it good, but at the end of the day, also you got to look at what is the actual take-home pay per year coming off of this, not just the capital structure and what kind of interest are you making on, $380,000, because that's not you're not going to live your life on the interest delta that we're talking about here, right? That's like a fairly immaterial thing to think is like amazing at this point. It's they want their share of the profit and how much money they're making off their profit share every year, and that's not discussed in here. That to me is the more interesting part of it.
So the last part of that was, doesn't matter that the quality is going down when partners are going to sign off on the engagement anyway. Industry is comical, sadly. This is the boy flip. Worst case scenario is that firms get slapped with a small fine when things go wrong, and it's pretty much the cost of business at this point.
But I don't think that's a worst case scenario at all. That's ridiculous. Like, no, Arthur Andersen is a worst case scenario.
Yeah.
You got to be kidding me. That's
yeah.
Okay. There you go.
I mean, that's definitely the. Well, yeah. I mean, to that level, I guess they're just expecting that you're never going to have that level of fraudulent activity happening.
Yeah. Well,
and this is kind of related to what we're going to get to in the That's Concerning section, where firms remove partners who fault clients' internal controls. So I jumped the gun a little bit on here, but I wanted to use this to really, is there a broader issue with putting profits over ethics and job duties? And that's the audit quality concern aspect here.
Firms remove partners who fault clients' internal controls. Can you explain this to me
more?
So
they're removing it from their book. They're removing that firm from their book. So if you're a partner, we'll get into that into that concerning section, because the title is not necessarily accurate to what the article actually.
Don't always trust the headline. Okay.
Don't trust the headline.
No, we'll dig into it.
That's why on Christmas they say don't believe the box.
Well, the Boyle flip here, I'd argue the worst case scenario is much worse than what's being proposed here, but don't necessarily disagree that the quality is going down either.
Yeah. So let's just jump into that section then. So firms remove partners who fault clients' internal controls. This is from Accounting Today. And I'll give you a little read here. Auditors who issue adverse opinions regarding a client's internal controls can find their careers derailed, according to a recent study. The study, released in March, found that firms are far more likely to remove a partner from a continuing engagement when the partner has issued an adverse internal control opinion for any clients in the previous year. So that's what it means. They're getting removed. They're getting taken off of those engagements.
Okay, and then let's keep going here. So the researchers found that individual partners who issue negative opinions about a client's internal controls experience unfavorable changes in their client portfolios in the form of lower fees and less prestigious client assignments. The negative consequences for partners were most dire when their adverse opinions were issued about the firm's most important clients. Man.
I mean, imagine being the partner who was supposed to say that Arthur Andersen to be like, this doesn't sit right with me.
This is a prime example of why there's not true independence because the client is paying the bill. And I don't think this isn't okay, here's my guess. My guess on how this plays out. I don't know if I should use like allegedly or whatever, but this is my guess is if you are a partner who's issuing a material weakness on an internal control, that's going to be oftentimes debatable, significant deficiency versus material weakness, whatever. And the CFO is going to get pissed about that. And if you end up making a decision to do a material weakness because that's what you believe is right, the CFO is probably going to threaten to take the job out to bid and replace you as auditors. How is the audit firm going to react to that? They're going to say, oh, we're sorry about that. We know you don't have a good relationship with this audit partner now. We're going to swap partners on you. And so it's that internal pressure from the audit side coming from the client is going to result in this. And then, yeah, just sort of human nature is like, as a partnership, oh, this partner pisses off our clients. We don't want to put them on the biggest jobs. That's how it's going to all naturally play out. But it all starts with the CFO being able to say, we're going to fire you if you don't switch partners on us. And it's obviously going to stem from them having a headbutting relationship because of this argument around internal controls. So this is where I think we can like pretend we're independent all day long, but when the rubber meets the road at like the highest levels of all of this, it can fall apart and there's pressure because of the audit fees.
Something always felt odd to me when we were talking about like, oh, do we have to have this independence from the client, but we were also encouraged to form good client relationships. And that's almost like saying, you know, you're not supposed to form a relationship with somebody who you work with, but like form a relationship with them. That way they treat you well.
It's such a fine line to walk. I really tried to have a good relationship with my clients because it just like made the whole experience better. But you can't be buddy and go into happy hours and like that kind of thing. Right. But you can be friendly around the office and oh, how was your weekend? How are the kids? Blah blah blah. That kind of stuff. That's fine. But yeah, it's when money gets in. Like at our level, we're staff and senior accounts. Nobody's. This isn't happening. It's when the CFO is like, hey, this $8 million audit engagement that you have every year, yeah, we might go take that out to market now and see what better price we can get if we don't get a new partner. And that's like a very easy email to be sent or sentence to be.
All of the most successful partners and senior managers that I ever worked with were the most charismatic, and they had the largest network. And most of the business that was getting brought in was, you know, they were either increasing the size of the engagement with an existing client because they had such a good relationship with the CFO or people on the board and the controller, or it was they were bringing in a new client because they were friends and it was their buddy who now became the controller or the CFO of another company, and it's like, oh, we're going to go hire our friend who works at that firm.
Well, I think so. I'm sure you saw this too. When you look at the partner ranks, there's kind of two types of partners. There's the rainmaker partner who does the business development, and then you have the technical partner. And my assumption here is the type of partner we're talking about here is the technical partner who was really serious about it, followed the rules, did everything the right way. They're not the rainmaker though, and so the CFO might not have the relationship with them directly, because oftentimes the rainmaker goes out and signs a bunch of clients, but they can't manage all the clients that they sign. And so it's assigned to one of these technical partners. And so, yeah, that's where maybe the technical partner doesn't have the same amount of charisma to work that conversation appropriately, get people comfortable with it. This is where human nature, relationships, and money all come into play to cause this type of issue, which is a very real issue. And it's cool that it's being called out by Accounting Today. I think it's important.
Yeah. And so one of the other paragraphs from later on goes, the study noted that auditors historically have been seen as the gatekeepers of capital markets, but often confront trade-offs between fulfilling their fiduciary duties to the public and maintaining positive relationships with their clients, citing previous research. Those trade-offs have become more apparent as the audit profession has placed greater emphasis on maximizing profits and embracing a client as king culture. So it was like the customer's always right.
Yeah. This is a good argument for, you know, I know people don't love giving work to the government, but at the end of the day, the government audits the auditors. And so why not just have the government do the audits and genuinely be independent?
Well, I was going to ask you what you think a solution would be. And I was talking to Stefan.
By everyone who by all small government advocates, right, that is met with an extremely negative point of view because they just don't want the government to be doing anything. But when you're looking at something that involves independence, in a capitalist, society, is that something that should be run via capitalism? And I'm not a huge fan of having more government overreach and all that kind of power. I mean, I think but I think this is a place where government should be inserting itself and giving true, honest, independent evaluations, like the IRS. Right? The IRS audits us. Why can't the IRS be the one doing audits of businesses?
This is a real internal strife for me because I'm very much so in the favor of a smaller government. Don't just protect us, make sure the roads are good, and do that, right?
All right.
Build some buildings, build some bridges, like make sure that, and make sure we don't get invaded. And so I usually opt for less taxes to sort of approach to things, but I'd almost prefer that my tax money is spent to pay the firms. That way you're not getting paid by the client. You're being paid, because then you could be the external, because I don't think the government would ever have the capacity to audit all of these entities. They're just not big enough. But if the money wasn't coming from the client to pay you and you're bidding for different prices, and how do you undercut them? And
There's no,
I don't think
yeah,
capitalism in audit it's a weird.
no, it would have to be a different setup. Like you couldn't, it couldn't just be like taxpayer dollars go to funding the SEC to funding this. It would be audit businesses. Hey, if you want to be a publicly traded company, you're paying a fee towards this government organization, and it's non-negotiable. You know, maybe it's some percentage of revenue or something like that. You have some number where it's like, hey, we found that the average audit costs X% of revenue. As such, that's your fee now for being a publicly traded company. You can pay that into the SEC. The SEC can go out and hire all the people who work at Big Four right now, and they can do their thing, and it's genuinely independent because there's no ability to take your job out to bid and scare people. And like a lot of people will say, well, then it's a government organization. It's really inefficient, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And that's fair. Like, how do you make sure that it's going to run efficiently and do things the right way? And I don't know the answer to that one. I actually think the answer to that is whole different discussion.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the concern that comes about from it. But like, honestly, if you're just looking for independence, like it's got to be done by a central body that is genuinely independent, and you can't when you have a financial relationship.
There is a intermediary hybrid, because I don't think we'll ever get to the point where anybody from the capitalist part of America will ever let that happen.
Yeah.
But I was talking to Stefan, our accounting evangelist here at FloQast, what a better solution is, and there needs to be a better scale grading system. Like, it can't just be unqualified, qualified, adverse.
Interesting.
Right? Because it's like
good, pretty good.
It's like, because a lot of the times too, it's just like, oh, well, we couldn't really tell, so we're just not going to include that part. I was like, no, you should get a score, like a health score at a restaurant. You know, and an A- is still good.
That's interesting.
But it's just like, you know, you got the minus because like there was some sort of control in place that like could be better. Or, you know, you have mitigating controls, but you don't have the best system in place. Something to just incentivize, allow an accounting firm to issue an opinion besides everything's great.
I also wonder if technology and AI will help standardize this a little bit more. Because if AI is used across all the Big Four audit firms, then it's going to ultimately become standardized the way audits occur, and maybe there's less judgment involved, and it is what it is. I don't know. This is a really interesting like brainstorming discussion, and it's like I said, I guess kind of cool that Accounting Today is highlighting it.
So this is actually the recent release.
You did a whole thing on it?
Accounting Today recently released an article about accounting firms reprimanding auditors who issue adverse opinions over client internal controls. This is really dangerous, and here's why. External auditors are specifically hired as third parties to provide objective judgment over a company's financial position and internal controls. Investors rely on getting the honest truth about a company's status through their audit reports. If an auditor is afraid to give a negative opinion because of how it might hurt their career, they'll be less incentivized to be honest about how a company's doing. While client relationships are important, auditors have to do good by the public. Not providing objective feedback undermines the entire point. One of the biggest reasons Arthur Andersen turned a blind eye to Enron's shady activities is because they were one of their biggest clients and they didn't want to lose them. So unless we want to see more economic collapses, accounting firms threatening repercussions for auditors doing their job should be concerning to everyone.
Well done. There you go. I agree. People should care about auditors.
Care about auditors. I edited that all myself too.
Well done.
Thank you. Yeah.
There you go.
You know, multi-potentialite here.
Yeah. You're a triple threat, quadruple threat, whatever.
Anyway, so that was I would say my largest concerning item that I had of the concerning. But the other thing we had
a couple, but
is just this whole Vice Media files for bankruptcy. And this is, again, we're talking about the streaming. This came from Wall Street. This came from LinkedIn actually. And we talk about the streaming, which also came from LinkedIn. Seems to be pretty good with the news, actually.
They're getting better.
And it just has to do with, like, you talk about these streaming services moving to the different model of how can they stream the sports and have the packages and put out cable. Content as a whole, and the whole model of how we address content is kind of fascinating.
Wow, so they're being bought for $225 million, because I think when Fox did that round of funding in them, it says, I think that was at the $5.7 billion number. So they've lost a whole lot of, and they're not the only one of these digital publishers to be going down. I think, BuzzFeed's not doing particularly well.
BuzzFeed
right
News
now.
is done.
Is BuzzFeed in there?
So part of the article later on was BuzzFeed News is done, MTV News is shutting down as well. And so is the social media digital content age just completely wiping out any traditional media forms?
Why do you think that is?
So I have an interesting little quote from here. So Phil Ranta, the COO of We Are Verified, said this about the old model. Vice, BuzzFeed, etc. had no problem raising big money with the point of view of owning the digital generation with premium content.
Okay.
But it means far fewer swings at bat than the collective power of aspirational at-home creators. So right now, you're one entity trying to create the best piece of possible content, but you have anybody who has a phone and a mic and is at their house and a TikTok and an Instagram account. Like anybody can make content at this point. So you're competing not just against a couple like, these are the other big movie makers or these other TV show makers. You're competing with everybody from at-home folks to the big agencies. And if your thing flops, you invested so much money into that big thing.
Yeah. And you have to keep producing that
you have to
content.
keep
You
doing
just
it.
have to keep being the best at everything. That's really interesting. Okay, so wow, the little guy.
Yeah.
A bunch of little guys are competing against these groups and taking them down. That's super interesting.
Yeah, he said when you raise money like a tech company, when you are at your heart a production studio, you're digging yourself into a hole that can only be overcome through a constant stream of massive, massive hits. The Vice of the future will be built far more like a Mr. Beast and far less like a tech company.
That
so that's
makes
the thing.
a lot of sense.
And I've thought about this so many times. It's like, I've always wanted to own like a content engine and just be like a place. But I was thinking about it, I was like, there really is no good business model for it. I mean, you have to, unless
Mr. Beast figured it out.
Well,
he's got a great business model.
He figured it out, yeah. And
But he's also not, he's not trying to cover 40 different topics. He's got his thing, he does it, his fans love him, he has so many fans, and then he uses his brand to make money in other ways, right? That's sort of, I mean, I think he makes a ton of money on his videos as well at this point, but yeah, that guy's super impressive, by the way. He's just like a very impressive individual.
But if you think about that, the quality of the content, this concerns me about content is because there is a beauty when there is the proper investment put into making really good pieces of content and film and media. And I'm all on my Godfather kick since I watched The Offer, and it's just like, if you hit your big piece on the year and it makes everybody millions and everybody's happy, you do it again and you do it the next year. But those big hits are far and few between at this point. And I mean, the box office numbers kind of show for that. And is it worth investing millions of dollars constantly in these shows that aren't necessarily going to give you the return that you need?
And I wonder how much of this is linked to, like Vice and BuzzFeed made a big name for themselves on Facebook. And that would drive people back to the Vice content on a regular basis. So I know, like, I'm just thinking about my own journey with it, right? I used to be on Facebook. I dropped off Facebook. I used to like Vice. I used to watch a lot of Vice stuff. I don't watch nearly as much anymore, I think because it's just not front and center for me as much. So I wonder if like the generational changes of social media, if you establish an audience and then when they leave the social media platform, you lose that audience in some regards.
That's true.
Because I'm not proactively going to vice.com to find stuff. It's when it happens to pop up in my feed and I just don't see it as much these days. And so I know I don't watch nearly as much Vice content as I did in the past. I'm not on BuzzFeed ever. Like that's so interesting.
That's a really good point because I got all of my news from just what was on my timeline and what was showing up there. I remember that's how I got into Elite Daily. They kind of fizzled out and had to cater to a niche because they lost their audience of just we're all on Instagram now.
So let's play that out. So Instagram is not as good as Facebook about sharing the news and that kind of stuff. People are now migrating off Instagram onto TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. Do you know if TikTok has like a news sharing component, or is that basically dead on TikTok?
I think Instagram, honestly, at this point, from talking to a lot of people, I think Instagram and TikTok are kind of this battle, and you almost go to the different the different places for different purposes.
Yeah.
So,
but TikTok's gonna win, in the way that Instagram's beating Facebook is winning. Like I think that the generational thing is gonna occur.
Fortunately, Instagram and Facebook are both Meta, so
right,
it's
are
a
both
win-win.
Meta, so it's a it's a win-win.
I don't know. Montana just banned TikTok.
The state did.
The state did
at the state level. Interesting. Okay.
So I don't really use TikTok very much because I don't like. There's more content. It's easier to blow up, but the content I find is of a lower level. Now they have the best algorithm for sure to get you the stuff that you need, but it's just loaded. TikTok is loaded with, it's overloaded and oversaturated with like to find the thing that is actually good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I it's not a place where I'm seeing a lot of news coming from. And again, I think if you're one of these entities, I don't know. You're competing with the regular guy. You're competing with me, throwing up a TLDR now and giving you news about that.
That is a really interesting thing. They're competing against, you have a million competitors, not just one or two. That's fascinating.
And the level, here's the other thing too, is people don't care to have something be the highest of level. I mean, we filmed that on the phone. We had some good lighting thanks to the guys in the back, but I mean, that wasn't a high lift level activity. And so how much more you're paying somebody, you have a whole team working at some of these entities. How do you justify them making little shorts like that?
Well, and by the way, their quality isn't always the highest either. You'll read sometimes these articles have typos in them. It's not like they're perfect. So, yeah.
So anyways, that'll be interesting to see what happens there. So, all right, let's finish this up with the fun.
Lighten it up a little bit. All right.
That's why I love having the how should we account for meme section.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Always a fun way to end it out. This one I just couldn't help but laugh when I saw this. Is from the Big Four account, and when you're on vacation, but an accountant. And again, we're working to elevate the profession here and make it so that this doesn't have to be the case, but it's still very fun to play on. And we've got a guy here is that parasailing? What activity is that? Parasailing?
Yeah, I think it's parasailing.
Yeah, he's
whatever you do on a boat. I think he's attached to a boat.
Yeah, he's attached to a boat, and he's got his sail behind him, so he's floating in the air, and of course he's got his laptop on.
It's sad how common it is. So like last week I was at our Founders Club trip to celebrate the sales team and all the wins and everything, and I saw someone on the plane. They were doing a performance review, but I was eavesdropping on the domain, and I noticed they worked at one of the Big Four firms, and they were using one of the HR providers to do their performance review cycle. So I saw that. And then at the actual resort, someone in their lounge chair by the beach with a laptop up. And I was being I saw it was a spreadsheet. Yeah. I didn't know exactly what they were doing, but unfortunately they were working on something lame because it was in Excel and they were not enjoying the pool or the beach as they should have been. So
see, I think you can get away. I think you can get away with it if you actually live there. Like if I lived on the beaches of Hawaii, and it'd be I'm still working the other day, but I just have the nice view, which is great. But when you're on vacation and you have to bring that with you, I had a friend who
you're right. If this guy works at the parasailing company, then it's like whatever. He's got to get some stuff done. But
I had a friend who would come to Sunday football we watch Red Zone. Everybody gets there at noon. We leave at like 8 p.m. Eastern Coast time, he would bring his laptop every single time and be like, I'm going to work. I mean, he rarely ever actually worked, but you bring the laptop everywhere you go because you're like, I might need to hop on.
I'm going to follow my fantasy football team with the stat tracker live. Yeah.
But I don't know. How do you, and a whole other conversation, I'll save this for a future episode, is just like, how do you turn your brain off from work when you're on vacation? Because
I have no answer for that one.
You haven't figured it out yet.
Good luck.
So,
nor should I as the CEO. So that's kind of that's how it works.
I think everybody's hoping that you're thinking about it.
Yeah, people forget that. I think that's why C-level people make a good amount of money. As part of it is mentally consuming at all times. Like literally, we're on vacation and I'm like thinking about work all the time. So whatever.
You're one and the same.
Is what it is.
So this is from old particular 2326 on Reddit, and basically.
Okay.
You want to show what we got going on
here?
Yeah,
so the tech world in 2023, ChatGPT is the darling, being held up in the pool. The metaverse is sinking, and NFTs are at the bottom of the ocean there. Could not agree more.
It's insane. Like
I've spoken with a couple of VCs recently, and I do these meetings regularly just to maintain relationships and update them on the business so that when we are ready to raise money, if we want to do that, it happens way faster.
Yeah.
And so I've been kind of like loosely working AI into a couple of the pitches. And this is how it's going to go. This is the amount of funding that's going to go into AI-backed companies this year and into the next year is going to be wild. And then I wonder how many are actually going to hit, how many are real actual businesses behind it. But I've heard stories of companies with no revenue are raising at massive valuations like the 2021 timeframe with all of this. And so much of it's going to be smoke and mirrors. It really is going to to be.
Wow, I got to get in on that.
Yeah, you should.
This is just, I mean.
The trick for those who want to hack the system, you come up with some AI idea, go raise a round of funding, but when you do it, try to have a large portion of secondary where you personally take that money off the table. Get a little tender offer.
Yeah.
I was talking to one of our VCs and I was like, how many seed pitches have you got where the founder was trying to take money off the table at the same time? I mean, it's just it's easy to spot. And he said he's seen one of those deals so far, and that's just a true scammer trying to steal money from VCs and everything. Yeah, if I were a VC, there's no way I would allow anyone to take money off the table until they've done like pretty significant damage and built a pretty big business.
Yeah, and so this is from Zippia. There's a little quote here. So Moore's law states that the number of transistors on integrated circuits or microchips will double every 2 years. And it was first described by Gordon E. Moore, co-founder of Intel, in 1965. Even though he only predicted it to hold true for 10 years, it's largely held true through the current times. And it's just the rate at which technology is changing. I mean, we've gone through over the last 2 years, I mean, the boom and the rise and fall of cryptocurrency, and now it's in this weird limbo period of will they, won't they? It's like the relationship that you're not sure if they're going to actually get together or break up. And then
Parts of it are going well, parts of it aren't.
you had the blunder of the metaverse initial launch, which was a total flop, and then it's sort of now potentially resurfacing with the addition of AI. You had the NFT boom, like the tulip bloom of the 1890s. And then
that was the
total
most
collapse.
obvious one.
Yeah.
I mean, that one was obvious in real time, in my opinion.
Like you're paying for a JPEG?
Yeah, I will say I think AI is way more real than those.
Yeah.
Question is it a timing thing? Like, did is this the pets.com that was too early, and then Chewy version is going to come out in 10 years and the timing is going to be better? That's there's that comparison that's being made, which I think is fair. But AI has very practical applications, and the interesting thing here is ChatGPT. It's becoming really clear that ChatGPT is not necessarily going to be the clear winner in this space. Like, it's Google launched Bard. Bard looks really good, and Bard has an advantage in that it has access to current information on the internet, whereas OpenAI is a couple years old. I'm sure Amazon's going to roll something out on their servers here pretty soon to be built with, and then it is easy to kind of build these things at this point. So it's not clear that ChatGPT is going to be the winner in this whole space. I mean, obviously having such a big chunk of investment from Microsoft puts you in a really good spot, but it's far from guaranteed.
Yeah. They are first, at least.
First to market was big, is very big.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what their churn would be coming out of, do people sign up? We're paying them $20 a month, and then they're going to be like, wait, this Bard thing is free from Google. Let me switch over to that. I'm really curious how that's going to all play out. And then as a business, if you're doing a B2B deal with them, you can do one with them, or now you can do one with Google, or you'll be able to do one with Amazon in pretty short order, and then who knows how many more are coming out after that.
I mean, can you imagine Amazon Web Services is now like, we'll actually do it all for you because we have the technology now to do it. I mean,
I'm waiting.
Yeah.
I'm really, because we build on AWS our software, and I'm curious what tooling is going to be available in AWS. They could come out of nowhere with something that's just wild, like really good.
Yeah. You know that Bo Burnham song from Inside? Come on, Jeffrey, you can do it.
No, I don't.
Put your back into
I know
it.
what you're talking about. Yeah, that means ridiculous. So we'll see. They're usually very forward thinking on these things, and I know AWS is really good and they roll out great products, and so we shall see.
Yeah. So the key insight here: technology is increasing so fast, and why is the question, right? Because each technological innovation makes many more possibilities, and typically drives down the cost of the technology. So, like I said, once it's on the board, now it's everybody's going after it, and like you said, once that foundation is built, anybody can just start building, and it suddenly becomes a lot cheaper. It's all that initial lift to get that R&D that once you hit that point, it just exponentially shoots off, which is what we're seeing.
Amen.
And now it could build itself. So this is just the last one. I wanted to laugh as we went off on. So do you want to be me or do you want to be the accountant?
I'll be me. No, I'll be the accountant. Okay, you go for it.
So this is from Who 33. Same. I'd like help with my taxes.
Okay, what state will you be filing them in?
I'd say anxious.
No, I mean, like, what state have you lived in for the last year?
Oh, sorry. Depressed.
That's really good.
I saw it and I was like, it's not tax season anymore. So I'm sure people are still working on their extensions and whatnot.
Well, California extended.
Till when?
I think October 15th because of some flooding or something that went down, so they had to extend the deadline. So actually, my taxes are not complete yet. I need to get that.
So there you go. So it is still tax season for some people, but I
think for those preparing California tax returns, it must have been a great year. That stuff's at least spread out a little bit more. You don't have this crunch. So I know. Like, I didn't even provide my information until after the deadline. Like, our guy reached out to me like, "Hey, we're ready to get going on this. Can you send it over?"
Yeah, and I guess the good thing about that too is like if you went with that initial thought of like, oh, I do need to have it done, so you started to already get a whole bunch out, and then at whatever point you find out that there is a deadline extension, then you're like, oh, okay, I can kind of like take my foot off the pedal, but you've already got a good chunk, put a dent in it, because otherwise, I think the human condition, you'll just procrastinate on it and be like, oh yeah, we'll deal with this in like August.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. We were just talking about that earlier in the week. That's
Yeah.
funny. We had a tax professor, Chris and I, in college, who he gave us some assignment on like a Monday, and he goes, "Yeah, it's due by Friday," and everyone starts freaking out about it. Like, "What? We need more time." Blah blah. He's like, "Look, if I give you till the end of the semester, you'd wait until Thursday before the end of the semester anyway. So just do it this Thursday instead of that Thursday, and shut up." And everyone shut up and got it done on time, and it was fine.
Cool.
He's right.
But yeah, that's our session here too. A lot of fun stuff I think that happened, and then I think a good shout out because this just happened as of Tuesday, coming up.
Yeah.
Love last Tuesday. So this just happened as of Tuesday. Is FloQast compliance module just came out.
I'm very excited about this one. We know my favorite part is how much of the PBC process it's going to automate. And if you follow FloQast Studios, you know how much we like the PBC process. We made a whole sitcom about it and try to rip on it. And this is something where, dude, linking the audit evidence to the control where it's going to be audited is so powerful and will save accountants a ton of time and just like eliminate the vast majority of that PBC process. That's so exciting to me. So yeah, our compliance solution is great. I can't wait to have it like publicly launched. It's cool that we already have 50 of our clients using it. They're happy with it, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the press release getting out there, going to market is going to be a lot of fun.
And it's a callback to that first article about PwC integrating AI, but a callback to the concerns about internal controls and audit firms, dealing with the client relationships there. Just a lot of internal control chat, which I like to see, and then controls over how we're dealing with AI and how we're dealing with GPT, all that sort of stuff. It's just a hot topic.
And you could argue the work-life balance issue on the audit side as well, because if you're an auditor who audits one of our clients, you don't have to send request lists back and forth. Like if you're good at what you do, you can just log into FloQast, find that audit evidence on your own, and do your audit around that control. You don't have to go back and forth with a client. You can just do it on your own, and that's like way faster and way less stressful. And so this could even help with some of those issues in audit as well.
Yeah, so for next episode, definitely going to dive a little more into that because we'll have the full launch and then advise everybody to go check out the commercial as well that we made over here at FloQast Studios.
Yeah.
The SS Compliance, so take a look. Let us know what you think.
Another great product, another great production from FloQast Studios. You guys did a really great job on it.
Awesome, thank you. Yep. So thanks everybody for listening. This has been the FinTech Flo.
All right, have a great rest of your week. Thanks for tuning into the FinTech Flo. I want to give you a heads up that if you are looking for CPE credits, this is eligible for 1 hour. If you'd like to learn more, check out the link in our description to get those credits.